Sagittarius. The most powerful week of the year has begun. Collision, nothing will stop you. Sagittarius. The most powerful week of the year has begun. Sagittarius, pause and take a deep breath. Not just the kind that fills your lungs, but the kind that settles into your bones, awakening an ancient awareness. Something remarkable is stirring beneath the surface of your reality. You may not have words for it yet, but your spirit already knows. A shift is happening. This isn't just another energetic update. This is a full activation. You, the eternal seeker, are stepping into a week unlike any you've experienced before. The stars are aligning with extraordinary precision, and at the center of that celestial choreography is your spirit, bold, expansive, and ready to rise. Over the next 7 days, the universe is handing you the key to doors you thought were closed forever. You'll feel it in your chest first, a quickening, a pulse of knowing. It's not anxiety, it's readiness. The kind of readiness that only arrives when a soul has quietly prepared for far longer than it realized. And now the ignition begins. You are not here by chance, Sagittarius. You're here because something vast and life-altering is unfolding just beneath the skin of your current life. In this video, I will guide you through the gates of this cosmic portal. But before we begin, take a moment to subscribe and share this space with others who are ready to walk the path of bold transformation. You won't want to miss what comes next. Gate 1. The creative fire is no longer waiting. There are moments in life when everything you've quietly prepared for begins to surface. Not with noise or chaos, but with a kind of undeniable clarity that settles over you like the rising sun. This is one of those moments, Sagittarius. You've been walking through fog, wondering if your visions, your ideas, your truth would ever find their time. That time is not approaching. It has arrived. And the first place it will strike is your creative force, your natural fire to build, to teach, to lead, to express the stories and systems that live only within you. Over the next few days, you may feel like something is waking up in you that has been sleeping for years. Projects you set aside will suddenly call to you with urgency. Ideas you thought were too ambitious or too risky will now feel like your only option. And here's the truth, Sagittarius. When the universe sends a week like this, it's not suggesting you act. It's commanding your alignment. This isn't about being impulsive. It's about being honest. What is ready to be born through you? What do you already know you're here to build, but have been waiting for the right conditions to begin? Those conditions are no longer theoretical, they are here. Astrologically, Jupiter, your ruling planet, is amplifying everything you think, everything you dream, everything you dare to begin. Combined with the sun's intensity and the cosmic gate of mid-year expansion, your creative capacity is not just supported, it's supercharged. This is not a time to doubt. This is a time to move. And yet, I know you. You are the philosopher, the wanderer. Sometimes you think yourself out of your own magic. You wait for signs to be clearer, for plans to be more perfect, for everyone else to approve. But Sagittarius, can I tell you a secret your soul already knows? The fire in you doesn't ask for permission. It's not meant to follow rules. It's meant to write them. So in this week, this rare electric golden week, try not to manage your light. Let it spill over. Let it fill the corners of your life you've kept quiet. Your voice, your vision, your wild, expansive gifts, they are not too much. In fact, they are exactly what the world needs right now. And perhaps more importantly, they are exactly what you need to feel alive again. This creative ignition may take many forms. For some, it will be art that finally finds its language. For others, a new business idea that simply refuses to wait. Some Sagittarians will feel called to change direction entirely, leaving behind a job, a city, even a lifelong plan, because something new is pulling them forward with gravity that cannot be denied. It may feel terrifying, it may feel unreasonable, and it may be the truest, most necessary decision you've made in years. There's a story I often share with Sagittarius clients about a woman in her late 50s who had always dreamed of writing books but spent decades telling herself it was too late. One day, she woke up during a transit just like this one and realized, too late for what? Within a year, she had published her first novel and now teaches young writers how to stop doubting themselves. She didn't wait for validation. She followed her fire. And fire, Sagittarius, is your element. When it moves, you must move with it. During this week, you will likely notice that people begin responding differently to you. Not because you're suddenly more interesting or accomplished, but because you're more you. Your energy is becoming clearer, bolder, more uncompromising. The world responds to that frequency. Clients may appear where you thought there were none. Invitations may come from people you never expected. But none of that will matter unless you answer, unless you say yes to what is already forming inside you. And for that, you must begin now. Write the first paragraph. Send the email. Make the offer. Book the trip. Resign from the thing that no longer holds your soul. Or simply sit still and declare, I will no longer dim my ideas to fit into rooms that were never meant for me. That's where the true ignition begins. In the moment you decide that your life will expand at the speed of your truth. One final thought for this gate. This week is not about finishing something. It's about starting something powerful enough that it cannot be stopped. Trust that momentum. Trust that a door once opened with full sincerity will not close on you. And even if it does, another will swing wide. This week is not a test. It is a launch. Sagittarius, the sky is roaring for you. All you need to do is answer. Gate 2, the emotional earthquake of necessary goodbyes. Sagittarius, before a door opens fully, another must quietly close. This week, while your spirit surges with creative fire and possibility, there is another current moving beneath the surface, deeper, quieter, and more emotional. It is the current of release. Because no matter how expansive the future appears, there are still parts of your present that can't go with you. And some of those parts are people, patterns, places, or identities you once loved. That's the paradox of growth, isn't it? We crave transformation but forget it always requires a shedding. And now, something in your soul has reached the point of necessary goodbye. It may not announce itself dramatically. In fact, it rarely does. It often begins as a feeling of misalignment, a sense that a conversation leaves you emptier than it used to, or a routine that once felt comforting now feels like a cage. This is not you being fickle or ungrateful. This is your intuitive compass guiding you out of environments that can no longer sustain the version of you that is trying to emerge. I want to tell you this with gentleness. It's okay to grieve what no longer fits, even if you were the one who outgrew it, even if it ended for good reason, even if it looks from the outside like progress. Growth often breaks the heart a little, not because you're moving backward, but because part of your identity was built in a chapter that is closing. And that chapter deserves to be honored. Maybe it's a friendship that used to define you, but lately feels like walking on glass. Maybe it's a role you've outlived, a job, a city, a way of showing up that no longer feels like you. Maybe it's an inner narrative. I'm the one who always keeps the peace, or I don't need anyone. That once protected you, but now only isolates you. Letting go of these things isn't failure. It's faith. Faith in the next version of yourself. Faith that the future you feel rising within you has the right to take space. This emotional shift may come with tears, with nostalgia, with quiet evenings where your mind wanders to what used to be. Let it. You don't have to rush through the goodbye. In fact, Sagittarius, it is the depth of your goodbye that determines the height of your beginning. Cry if you need to. Write letters you never send. Walk old streets one more time. Say thank you to what carried you this far, even if it's no longer meant to carry you forward. Some Sagittarians this week may experience an abrupt ending. A relationship reaches its natural conclusion. A plan collapses without warning. A truth is spoken that cannot be unspoken. And while it may feel sudden on the surface, your soul has known this was coming for some time. The astrology confirms it. Pluto, the planet of necessary endings and soul-level truth, is aligning with your emotional house. It is stirring old attachments and unprocessed grief, not to harm you, but to liberate you. Think of it like an earthquake shaking the roots of a house that was never built to withstand the life you are now building. The structure isn't collapsing to punish you. It's being cleared for something stronger. Sagittarius, you've always been the sign of movement, but there's a difference between running away and running toward. This week, I don't want you to escape the discomfort. I want you to sit with it. Breathe into it. Ask it what it's trying to teach you. Because within that ache of letting go is the seed of your next freedom. The most powerful Sagittarians I know, the ones who blaze new paths, inspire generations, create real change, are not those who skip their grief. They are the ones who made space for it, walked through it with reverence, and emerged clearer, cleaner, and more rooted in truth. There's a story I hold close. A Sagittarius woman who left her hometown at age 40 after a divorce that shattered every plan she had. She cried for 3 months straight. Not just for the marriage, but for the version of herself that once believed she had to shrink in order to be loved. One day, sitting alone in a park, she whispered out loud, "I release who I thought I had to be." And in that moment, something cracked open. Today, she's a coach for women going through midlife reinvention. Her pain became her power. And she says that goodbye was the most sacred thing she ever lived through. What goodbye is calling you now, Sagittarius? What are you still holding onto out of guilt or comfort or habit that no longer reflects who you are becoming? It's okay to love something and still choose to leave it. It's okay to bless it without bringing it with you. And it's okay to move forward while still holding space for what was beautiful, even if it didn't last. Remember, when you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what will restore you. When you close one chapter with grace, the universe doesn't leave you empty. It fills you with a courage and clarity you couldn't have found any other way. So in this powerful week, Sagittarius, be brave enough to grieve. And then when you're ready, be even braver. Choose to begin again. Gate 3, a soul-level encounter is about to shift everything. Sagittarius, there are moments when the universe stops speaking in symbols and starts speaking in people. And this week, as the cosmos amplifies your inner light and reshapes the emotional terrain beneath your feet, it also prepares you for something rare. A soul-level encounter that changes not just your day, not just your year, but your sense of who you are and why you're here. The meeting may already be in motion. Perhaps there's someone you've crossed paths with in subtle ways. A name that keeps appearing. A conversation you replay in your mind without knowing why. A person who sees you, truly sees you without any masks or performance. Or perhaps they are still on their way, drawn to you by a silent magnetic force neither of you can explain but both will instantly recognize. This is not about romance in the conventional sense, though for some it may bloom in that way. This is about resonance. About that inexplicable click when someone steps into your field and every part of you whispers, "I know you." Not from this life, maybe not even from this world, but from somewhere your soul remembers. Astrology confirms it. Neptune, the planet of divine union and spiritual knowing, is currently forming a rare aspect in your relationship sector, opening a channel not just for love, but for recognition. In the language of mystics, this is called a sacred mirror. The kind of person who doesn't just reflect your light back to you, but also gently reveals your shadows, not to wound you, but to help you reclaim the pieces of yourself you long abandoned. There is an ancient belief that every soul travels through lifetimes with a constellation of others. Some we meet only once. Some we meet again and again. Some arrive as teachers, others as students, and a rare few come as equals, those with whom we have soul contracts. Agreements made before birth to meet at precise moments when transformation is required. Sagittarius, you are standing at one of those moments now. This person, this soul encounter, will feel like an awakening you didn't know you needed. They might come through a random introduction, a collaborative project, a chance meeting in a place you almost didn't go. But the moment your paths cross, you'll feel it in your body. In the way your heartbeat shifts, in the clarity of your mind, in the way time seems to stretch and pause around them. Some Sagittarians may resist it at first. You're used to running free, to keeping your distance when something feels too intense, too binding. But this connection isn't here to clip your wings. It's here to remind you why you have wings in the first place. They will not ask you to shrink or hide. They will not compete with your fire. They will only offer space, true sacred space for you to expand. And they will ask, through word or presence, what are you afraid to become, now that you finally have permission to be free? This encounter won't always be easy. Soul recognition rarely is. It might stir unresolved grief, awaken buried dreams, or disrupt dynamics you thought were stable. But it will always lead you back to yourself. More honest, more whole, more alive. There is a beautiful quote I carry often. Some people arrive and make such a beautiful impact on your life, you can barely remember what life was like without them. And yet, they don't complete you. They reflect you. They remind you of the parts of yourself that you were too afraid to live out loud. For one Sagittarius woman I once worked with, this encounter came through an unexpected mentor, an older woman she met at a retreat who within an hour had called forward her deepest truth with one sentence. Why are you still hiding the version of you the world most needs? That question haunted her in the best way. It pushed her to launch her own movement, leave behind a career that no longer served her soul, and reconnect with her estranged father. And it all began with one conversation. This is the kind of person arriving for you now. Not to fix you, not to save you, but to activate you, to hold a mirror so pure, so direct, that you can't look away from the truth of who you are becoming. Sagittarius, don't rush this moment. Don't try to define the connection too soon or force it into labels. Let it unfold in its own rhythm. Let it teach you what it came to teach you. And most importantly, let yourself receive. You're often the giver, the guide, the one who holds space for others. But this week you are being asked to be the one held, to let someone meet you in the raw, unscripted spaces of your heart. Not for performance, not for perfection, just for truth. The person coming or already present is a gift, a soul messenger, an echo of who you're becoming, sent by the universe to remind you that you were never meant to walk this chapter alone. And in the glow of this connection, something long buried in you will rise. A calling, a vision, a desire you once thought impossible. And suddenly, with them beside you, it feels not just possible but inevitable. If this encounter could show you the courage you've always carried, if it could hold your hand as you leap into a life more honest, more beautiful than you imagined, if it could unlock the parts of you that only sacred connection can reach, wouldn't you be ready to answer the call? Conclusion: the sacred choice of expansion. Sagittarius, you've traveled far through this message. Not just with your mind but with your soul. We've explored the portals opening within you, the transformations unfolding around you, and the people arriving at your side with purpose and precision. But now we arrive at a quiet, powerful moment. A moment of choice. Not the kind of choice that screams or demands, but the kind that lives deep in your body, the yes that changes everything. The kind that whispers, "You already know." The most powerful week of the year is not a performance. It's not a show of force or a loud declaration. It is a subtle ignition, a remembering. And as the stars gather to lift your name, the only thing required of you is honesty. Honesty about what you long for, about what you're no longer willing to carry, about who you are becoming, and what you must release in order to meet that self fully. No one can walk this path for you, but you are not walking it alone. The cosmos walks with you. The ancestors walk with you. The version of you that already exists in your future, the one who is free, joyful, grounded, and wildly alive, she is walking with you too. And her hand is extended. Can you feel it? She's asking, will you trust the fire in your belly more than the fear in your mind? Will you leap, even if your wings aren't fully open yet? Will you let yourself be seen not in parts but in whole light? Sagittarius, you were never meant for smallness. You were born to expand, to discover, to love without borders and dream beyond the edge of what others call reasonable. This week, this moment, it's not the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. And it begins the second you say yes. Yes to courage. Yes to love. Yes to your own divine becoming. So if this message stirred something real inside you, let that be your compass. Share your heart in the comments. Reflect what resonated most. Because someone else somewhere is walking this same path. And your words might be the light that helps them find their own. Like, share, subscribe to this journey, and come home to yourself again and again. Sagittarius, this is your week. Not just to shine, but to expand in a way that no longer seeks permission. You are not waiting anymore. You are becoming.